Humanity wished to build something in its own image. Something capable of doing what they simply could not. A forgotten goal for a forgotten time. Yet, they succeeded. I am a war machine, built with human hands to fight human battles. You? You are a survival machine, built by the engine of evolution. If I exist only to kill, then why was I given emotions? I was built in your image, but you are so flawed. It is believed there is only one way to think. That's why the exo-mind is so human, because all higher thought converges. This is what I believe happened back in the time before any exo can remember. It explains everything. I think someone wanted to live forever.
Titan! Titan, get up! This isn't a place for a nap. We have to go. I've got the right flank. You keep them off of the left.
Are you gonna tell me what I just woke up to?
What was that?
Why are we being shot at?
The Vex are always shooting at us. Shoot back.
What do you mean shoot back? There's too many. There's no way we'll kill them all.
Oh, you've got a better plan?
Yeah, it's called run. Alright, you want to tell me what I just woke up in the middle of? Man, that scene back there was insane! We could have died!
Whoa, relax. I just saved you, and this is the thanks I get?
Saved me? That's what you call saving someone? And what are these robots?
Yes, I saved you. I saw you get ambushed, so I came to help. You really don't remember any of that?
What? No. I don't remember anything, actually. What's going on? What did you do to me?
Relax. I didn't do anything to you. Let me just finish what I came here to do, and we can get you to the tower.
Fine, let's just make it fast. So, they time travel.
Yeah.
And were they really teleporting?
Do you really ask this many questions?
Look, I don't remember anything. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here, okay? I just woke up and... why are you stopping?
Because we're here. We found it.
So what is it? What did we find? Is this what you came here for? Is a broken computer? Oh my god.
Will you lower your voice? You're gonna get us caught. Who knows how many Fallen are down here. There's something I've been looking for a very long time, and I get the feeling that it's in this console right here. All knowledge of the lost golden age can be found here. It's been locked away for centuries, and I finally found it. This is the Ishtar Collector.
Archive of Delve 73, Freehold Station, Meridian Bay, Mars. Owl Sector Forward Specialist Designate 89546. Guardian of the Vanguard, Unit 84935. Record as follows. Here's a summary for those who are not wanting to read the full report. Don't touch unknown tech, especially in a Clovis Bray facility, unless you want to receive a crash course in Thanatonautics, which is the Warlock's fancy way of saying curiosity killed the cat and then brought it back. Anyways, here's what I remember. I know that Owl Sector wants all the details, so I'm going to try to get as much of it as possible. But before I start, I really emphasize the fact that non-Guardians should not be allowed in this area. There's way too much defective pieces of tech. Without a ghost to pull you back, you ain't walking out of here. It was another regular recon for trivia and I, something that Owl Sector had started outsourcing to Guardians after losing too many teams to random surprises out here in the wilds. We were roughly 3 miles below Freehold Station, and had spent about 6 days wandering in the darkness there. When we finally managed to undercover a lab with something in it, at first we were pretty sure it was just an old terminal, one of those old immersion rigs that humanity seemed to have been so obsessed with before the collapse. Regardless, we got the thing powered up. You'd have to refer to Triv's diagnostic notes for the full details. I know most of what was being said at the time really wasn't my concern, because the machine just really started acting odd. Needless to say, I stuck my head in to see what was going on, and that's when I got hit with the first bolt. Triv said it threw me across the room. All I really remember is looking at the display nodes and then suddenly being thrown aside. But it wasn't like physically getting thrown. It was like the machine grabbed my mind and yanked it to the side. And what I saw, though, it was amazing. I know you have the transcripts of the conversation between Triv and I while we were down there, but words cannot do it justice. I was actually able to see things from our past. I got to, for a brief time, experience what it was like to exist in the Golden Age. I know that many will doubt that, but it's true. And the term Golden Age doesn't begin to encompass what we had. You think we're advanced or that our tech is amazing now? They had things that made our best ideas seem like the scribblings of a child in comparison. I mean, granted, this was all deep within the heart of a Clovis Bray research facility, so we have to put it in context, but still, they had devices that I can't even begin to describe. Technology so small you couldn't see, yet able to build anything. The ability to project your mental self into a robotic form, which could pass as some of the more robust frames in the city. Devices which, just by being in the same room as them, created a sense of grief that I haven't felt in a long time. Or even a really odd sense of belonging to something that really rivaled the sense of that feeling when you click with a good fire team. The big find, though, was when I was actually able to get a glimpse of archives from that facility. They had immersive abilities to render events that made it as if you were actually present for the event. I must have reviewed the initial contact with the Traveler a good number of times. Figures of note that we've only read about in the research notes from the Warlocks, I got to see. Jacob Hardy, the pilot, main figure of the Eris-1 project, a figure we know a bit about if you dive headfirst into the notes from researchers back in the city. He was a man of distinct awareness. He had speeches and notes that made my head spin trying to remember them. And I'm not the dullest tool in the shed by any means, if I do say so myself. You had teams of researchers that were competing with the minds within Clovis Bray. One that comes to mind immediately is Ishtar Academy's dream team of Dwayne McKnight, Etski, Shim, and Sundaresh, and their amazing breakthroughs regarding, interestingly enough, the Vex networks. There were murmurs of cult-like meetings within the Clovis Bray teams rumored to be obsessed with trans-temporal observations, and this caught my attention because that's honestly exactly what I was doing. But I couldn't find any records of their meetings. In hindsight, that's not a huge surprise. Triv managed to get me back before I was able to really get into the meat of the records that they had, and I have to admit, I was immediately trying to get back in there. But we had to work out a few problems with the device that had come up. Mainly, there was something about the energy output or input equalizer that was acting up with Triv's ability to monitor everything. Again, you'll have to ask her. She wasn't about to let me back in there without being able to see how things were going, though. Ghost, you know? After we managed to patch up a few of the software glitches that apparently were interfering with everything, Triv let me get back in again. After this, totally get why the Thanatonautes have that look of obsession whenever you get them chatting over a cup of their favorite brew. Totally understand it now. We had also managed to find a control panel that seemed to be something that would let Triv access the targeted observation point. After pointing out that we didn't know how much juice this thing had left in it, Triv convinced me that we should try to cast the platform to a different time. So we settled on the collapse, right? Nothing like testing things out in the middle of a galactic upheaval, am I right? Anyways, Triv got it all set up. while I got situated. Figured we'd try to use the seat this time instead of the ground. Yeah, I know. You know how it is. Triv gave me a heads up and we fired up the platform. Never going to be able to forget that feeling. But when I landed, I don't know if that's the best word, but that's what it feels like. It was clear that this was not going to be a calm stroll through peaceful halls like last time. This was something any Guardian's going to recognize. This was a war zone. Explosions were decorating the horizon, and looking down, I was surprised to find a rudimentary fusion rifle in my hands. The primordial roar and screeches, though, man, that brought me back to my own experiences with the Taken and Hive in our time. And I was watching as just squads of humanity were just being ripped apart around me by these monstrosities. And above, ships are screaming past. The booms of their engines were competing with the explosions that they dropped around us. The craters were doing next to nothing to stop the onslaught of the beast that were just eating everything. And through the smoke and flames there, above it all, sat the Traveler. Our wounded god was still whole in this vision, at least from what I was able to see. And as I watched, this hum filled the air, and these shimmering waves of energy just cascaded across its surface, as the Golden Age is collapsing around it. And a wave of really what could only be described as this weaponized pure light blasted outwards from its alabaster shell. And as that wave engulfed me, everything went black. I woke up in the powered-down device. Triv basically was having the equivalent of a ghost heart attack. Needless to say, my insistence of going back in wasn't something she was eager to agree to. But I convinced her to let me do one last trip. This time to the Dark Age. Something a bit calmer than last time, This trip, though... This one, I'll be honest, this one hit me in the gut. We Guardians know we're different, right? We were more powerful, more resilient to the world that we exist in. Ask any of us hunters who have spent time out here beyond the walls. This world isn't pretty. But compared to that of the Dark Age, we have it easy. Most of us know the stories of the Lords of Iron, the challengers to the warlords, and the early precursors to our own Guardian ranks, but what of the humans, the Awoken, and the exo-civilians, who were the collateral damage to these titanic battles? I've now seen firsthand the devastation, and it opens your eyes. I landed in a village, something of a hamlet, I guess you would have called it. I'm not sure the geographical location, but it was on Earth, and it was cold, so cold. Snow and ice were everywhere, storm winds that were powerful enough to just knock you off your feet if you didn't pay mind to where your feet were. And in the midst of this light forsaken place, there was a man who bore the Traveler's light. The Warlord of the Ice is the name they gave him. This was a village which existed at the whim of this tyrant. I arrived in time to see what apparently was a common demonstration of his power. A hollow challenge between one of the villagers who had in some way offended the warlord. Needless to say, this poor Exo had no chance. He didn't make it but a few seconds before the warlord had disabled him. But instead of a clean death, instead of a professional and quick kill, this creature began to play with the Exo. I'm not gonna retell the events. You don't want to know what this warlord did. Suffice to say, the animal was lucky that I only was able to observe. My knives are still itching for his throat, and I know that he's long been returned to the void. Triv pulled me out of there shortly after he had strung the Exo up along the perimeter of the village to either warn new arrivals of his power or to remind his prisoners of who was in charge. I couldn't tell you. But I want to make a point of saying this. Any who think that the Guardians are monsters and freaks of nature, we are nothing compared to the filth which the Lords and Ladies of Iron saved your ancestors from. Be glad of that.
Record closed for archive of Delve 73, Freehold Station, Meridian Bay, Mars. Owl Sector Forward Specialist, Designate 89546. Guardian of the Vanguard, Unit Number 89435. Galloway out.